in the far reaches of the galaxy, tucked away among nebulae and forgotten by the grand histories, spun a small planet named Taloria. It was a world of harsh winds and beautiful contradictions, with sprawling deserts encircling vibrant oases that thrived in defiance of the arid lands around them. Taloria had once been a bustling hub of trade routes, but as the Cerulean Empire expanded, it relegated the planet to the outskirts of its interests. Lyra Zane, a skilled pilot and native of Taloria, had always felt a burning discontent with the stifling control the Empire exerted over her planet. Her parents had whispered tales of the old freedoms, of skies unfettered by the heavy cruisers that now patrolled them. It was during one of her unauthorized flights into restricted airspace, pushing her small, battered craft to its limits, that she discovered something that would change the course of her life. Hidden in the belly of an abandoned outpost on the fringe of the dead zone, Lyra stumbled upon a tattered old broadcast unit, still faintly pulsing with residual energy. Curiosity overcame her caution, and she spent hours tinkering with the device until it sputtered to life, releasing a cascade of static before clearing into a message. "This is Commander Varric of the Galactic Liberation Front. If you are hearing this, you are the spark that can ignite the fire of rebellion. We have fallen, but you must rise. Gather the brave, for only together can you free the stars from the grip of tyranny." The message was old, the voice filled with a desperation and hope that resonated deep within Lyra. She knew then what she had to do. She couldn't let the dream of rebellion die in the dusty silence of that forgotten outpost. Over the following weeks, Lyra used the skills she'd honed as a smuggler to begin her most important mission yet. She reached out to old contacts and made new ones, each meeting shrouded in secrecy, as she shared the recording. Her charisma and conviction drew others to her cause, a diverse crew slowly forming around her, one that believed in the possibility of change as much as she did. Among them was Miko, a once celebrated engineer from the industrial sectors of Taloria, now turned fugitive after refusing to craft weapons for the Empire. His brilliance with machinery and cynical wit made him invaluable. Then there was Tessa, a quiet, enigmatic figure who'd escaped from one of the Empire's high-security prisons. Her knowledge of their inner workings and her fierce determination added an edge to their plans. Together, they began the arduous task of piecing together old rebel networks, deciphering coded messages left in the wake of fallen heroes. Each clue led them deeper into the heart of what had once been a formidable resistance. As their preparations advanced, so did the stakes. The Empire, ever watchful, began to sense the stirrings of unrest. Imperial drones started to patrol more frequently, and informants lurked in every shadowed corner. Lyra and her team had to operate with the utmost caution, their activities cloaked in layers of deception. Yet, amidst the danger, there was a palpable excitement, a sense of purpose that Lyra had never felt before. She organized covert meetings, strategized over star maps streaked with routes of sabotage, and planned their first major act of defiance. With each step, they were rewriting the destiny of not just Taloria, but potentially the entire galaxy. In the dead of night, under the cover of a new moon, Lyra stood with her team on the edge of the desert, looking out towards the dark silhouette of the city. The wind carried whispers of the coming change, and above them, the stars seemed to watch in silent anticipation. Tonight, they would strike at an Imperial supply depot, their first overt challenge against the Empire's might. As they set out under the blanket of darkness, Lyra felt the weight of the path she'd chosen. There was no turning back now, not for her, not for any of them. The echoes of rebellion had called, and they had answered, ready to light the fire that could consume the stars. After their successful strike against the Imperial supply depot, Lyra and her team had sent ripples throughout the sectors surrounding Taloria. The Empire, shaken by the audacity of the attack, tightened its grip, but the seeds of rebellion had already been sown. As news of the raid spread, whispers of resistance grew louder, and the crew knew it was time to expand their horizons. The next phase of their plan was to forge alliances with other oppressed worlds, pooling resources and information to build a united front. Each planet they targeted had its own tale of woe under the Empire's reign, and its own unique reason to join the burgeoning alliance. Their first destination was the aquatic world of Aquarial, known for its vast oceans and a resilient population skilled in shipbuilding and underwater technology. The Empire had exploited these resources, polluting the once pristine waters to fuel their war machines. Lyra knew that the people of Aquarial, desperate to reclaim their environment and dignity, would be valuable allies. Arriving under the guise of traders, Lyra and Miko met with a clandestine group of Aquarial's freedom fighters in the submerged city of Corallis. The city, a marvel of bioluminescent architecture, shimmered beneath the waves, its beauty belying the suffering of its people. The meeting was fraught with tension, the Aquarelians wary of outsiders, but Lyra's earnestness and the shared goal of overthrowing their oppressors slowly melted the ice. Miko provided technical insights, proposing a plan to retrofit the Aquarelian ships with stealth technology, making them invisible to Imperial sensors. In return, the Aquarelians agreed to supply the nascent rebellion with modified submersibles that could penetrate the most secure of Imperial naval bases. The pact was sealed with a mutual promise of support, each party knowing that their fates were now intertwined. Next, the team ventured to the mining colony of Draxus Prime, a barren, rocky planet where the Empire forced prisoners and debtors into dangerous labor extracting rare minerals. The harsh conditions and brutal overseers had fostered a deep-seated anger among the miners, a perfect breeding ground for recruits. Tessa took the lead, her past as a prisoner giving her a powerful connection with the miners. She shared her own story of suffering and survival, sparking a fire within the hearts of the oppressed workers. Together with a band of newly motivated rebels, they orchestrated a series of sabotage missions that crippled the mining operations, causing chaos in the Empire's supply chain. The team's efforts on Draxus Prime not only secured valuable allies but also a steady supply of explosives and other materials critical for their continued insurgency. More importantly, they demonstrated that the Empire was not invincible, inspiring hope and rebellion across nearby systems. However, with each victory, the danger to Lyra and her crew increased. Imperial spies were everywhere, and the stakes were higher than ever. The Empire began dispatching elite forces to quell the uprisings, leading to a deadly game of cat and mouse through the stars. Despite the risks, the rebellion's ranks swelled with those wronged by the Empire. Among the new recruits was Kai, a skilled pilot and tactician whose family had been executed for harboring rebel sympathizers. Kai's intimate knowledge of Imperial fleet maneuvers and his thirst for vengeance made him a key asset. His arrival marked a turning point, bringing new energy and ideas to the group. As they traveled from system to system, the crew's small ship, once merely a vessel of transport, became a symbol of defiance. Its battered hull told stories of narrow escapes and fierce battles, its every dent and scratch a badge of honor. Each mission, each alliance forged, was a step closer to their ultimate goal, a galaxy free from tyranny. But Lyra knew that to truly challenge the Empire, they needed more than just a coalition of the willing, they needed a united front capable of wielding the full might of their collective anger and hope. Under the light of distant stars, plans were drawn and promises made. The storm they were gathering would soon be unleashed, and the galaxy would never be the same. After forging alliances across several systems, Lyra and her crew had turned their focus inward, diving into the shadows to unravel the Empire's most guarded secrets. Espionage became their new battleground, requiring a level of stealth and cunning that challenged even the most seasoned among them. The crew's first target was the technologically advanced planet of Cypherian, known as the Empire's intelligence hub. Cypherian's sprawling digital networks housed vast amounts of data, including potential weaknesses in the Empire's infrastructure. Infiltrating such a fortress of information was perilous, but the potential rewards were too great to ignore. Kai, with his deep understanding of Imperial tactics, orchestrated the infiltration. Disguised as contractors, the team embedded themselves within the city's underbelly, working in the shadows of towering data centers and surveillance outposts. Miko's engineering expertise allowed them to tap into the city's grid, siphoning off data, while Tessa, with her sharp instincts, kept them one step ahead of security protocols. As they delved deeper into the Empire's secrets, the team discovered a series of encrypted files detailing a new superweapon, capable of devastating entire planets. The realization of such a threat shifted their mission from intelligence gathering to urgent sabotage. Decrypting the weapon's schematics, they planned to deliver a crippling blow to its development. Meanwhile, Lyra orchestrated a diversion, staging minor sabotages around the city to draw attention away from their true target. Each orchestrated chaos brought Imperial forces scrambling, creating a pattern of ghost chases that left the authorities bewildered and frustrated. The core of the operation took place in a high-security facility nestled in the icy mountains surrounding Cypherian's capital. Infiltrating the facility posed a monumental risk. It was surrounded by sensors and patrolled by elite guards. Utilizing a combination of stealth tech and daring, the team bypassed security, reaching the heart of the complex where the superweapon's core was under construction. Inside, they encountered more than just blueprints and machines. They found enslaved scientists forced to work on the project. Among them was Dr. Alara Vale, a brilliant physicist whose theories had once promised to revolutionize energy use across the galaxy. The Empire had twisted her research into a tool of destruction. With her help, they not only sabotaged the weapon but also freed her and the other scientists, turning them into valuable allies. With the superweapon disabled, the team exfiltrated under the cover of a fierce mountain blizzard, evading capture through sheer grit and the aid of their new allies. The mission was a resounding success, delivering a significant blow to the Empire's capabilities and morale. Back aboard their ship, as they set course to their next destination, the mood was one of cautious celebration. Each victory brought them closer to their goal, but the stakes were mounting. They knew the Empire would retaliate with even greater force, and they needed to be ready. To prepare for the inevitable backlash, Lyra decided to deepen their network within the Empire's own ranks. They needed insiders, sympathizers who could provide real-time intelligence and warnings. The task was daunting, but necessary. Tessa took on the role of recruiting these spies, using her contacts from her days in the Imperial prisons to identify potential allies. Each new recruit was a gamble, a possible trap, but the rewards of having eyes and ears within the enemy's walls were immeasurable. With careful vetting and a series of coded messages, they slowly built a cadre of informants who operated in the Empire's shadows, feeding them crucial information. As the network of spies grew, so did the rebels' reach and influence. News of their victories, embellished by the whispers of the oppressed, spread fear and doubt among the Empire's ranks. Stories of the mysterious rebel crew disrupting the mightiest plans of the Empire gave hope to those who had once felt powerless. The stage was set for their most ambitious plans yet. With a network of allies both within and outside the Empire's grasp, Lyra and her crew were not just rebels, they were the vanguard of a galactic upheaval. Each mission, each alliance, each secret unveiled brought them closer to a confrontation that would decide the fate of the galaxy. They were no longer just fighting to survive, they were fighting to win. As the rebellion spread like wildfire through the galaxy, the Empire's hold began to wane, with star systems breaking away in defiance. The time had come for a bold maneuver that would either cement the rebels' momentum or leave them vulnerable to crushing reprisals. The Ren Nebula, a strategically critical region filled with dense gas clouds and asteroid fields, became the chosen battleground. Here, Lyra planned to confront an Imperial armada, aiming to disrupt the Empire's supply lines and communication channels. Kai, now a seasoned tactician within the ranks, coordinated the assault. His plan was to use the nebula's natural obstructions as cover, turning the usually disadvantageous environment into a weapon against the enemy. The rebels had assembled a ragtag fleet, composed of modified freighters, captured Imperial fighters, and retrofitted civilian ships, each crew ready to fight for their newfound freedom. The initial skirmish began just as the first rays of the system's twin suns penetrated the nebula, casting eerie lights and long shadows across the battlefield. Rebel ships, cloaked in the nebula's gases, launched surprise attacks on isolated Imperial vessels, quickly overwhelming them with focused fire. The Empire, caught off guard, scrambled to mount a coordinated response. Amidst the chaos, Lyra piloted her ship, the Aurora Spear, weaving through asteroid debris with the grace and precision that had made her infamous among both allies and enemies. Her crew targeted key enemy ships, disrupting the Imperial formation and sowing confusion. However, the Empire was not to be underestimated. They regrouped swiftly, deploying advanced hunter-killer drones that could navigate the nebula's challenging conditions. The tide began to turn as the drones picked off rebel ships, their superior firepower and AI-driven tactics shifting the battle in the Empire's favor. Recognizing the shift, Tessa suggested deploying a risky countermeasure they had been developing, a virus designed to hijack the drone systems. Miko and a team of engineers worked furiously to upload the virus through an intercepted communication link. The gamble paid off spectacularly, with many of the drones turning on their own fleet or shutting down, causing chaos within the Imperial ranks. With the Empire's drone fleet compromised, the rebels seized the advantage. Lyra led a daring charge towards the Imperial flagship, Dominion's Might, a behemoth of war bristling with weaponry. As they approached, the Aurora Spear and its squadron faced a barrage of fire, but the support of their newly allied scientists enabled them to enhance their shields just enough to withstand the onslaught. The battle reached its climax as Lyra's team boarded the Dominion's Might, fighting their way through corridors thick with the smoke of battle to reach the bridge. There, they confronted the ship's commander, Admiral Vorek, a notorious figure whose strategic brilliance had prolonged the rebellion's struggle. The confrontation was intense, a brutal close-quarters fight that tested Lyra's combat skills to their limits. With the Admiral defeated, the rebel forces took control of the flagship, a symbolic victory that sent shockwaves throughout the Empire. News of the battle spread rapidly, bolstering the morale of oppressed systems and encouraging more to join the rebel cause. In the aftermath, the Ren Nebula became a graveyard of ships, a somber reminder of the cost of freedom. The rebels mourned their fallen comrades, each loss a heavy burden on their hearts, but the victory at Ren Nebula had proven their resolve and capability. It had shown the galaxy that the Empire could be challenged, that its once unshakable dominance was crumbling. The rebels used the captured Dominion's Might as a command center, planning their next moves. Lyra, standing on the bridge of the once feared flagship, felt the weight of command heavier than ever. She knew that the Empire would retaliate with even greater force, and that their struggle was far from over. Yet, in that moment, she also knew they had achieved something remarkable. They had united disparate people in a common cause, turning the tide of war in their favor. As the stars of the Ren Nebula watched silently, the flames of rebellion burned brighter than ever, a beacon of hope in a galaxy yearning for freedom. The resounding victory in the Ren Nebula had ignited hope across the galaxy, but Lyra knew that true change could only be achieved by striking at the core of the Empire, the capital planet Serral. Serral was not just the political heart of the Empire, it was a symbol of its might and supremacy. To breach its defenses and incite rebellion there would send the most powerful message yet, that no stronghold was impervious. The plan to infiltrate Serral required precision and the utmost secrecy. The capital was heavily fortified, surrounded by layers of space stations and patrolled by the Empire's most elite forces. The rebels needed a way in that would avoid these massive defenses. Their answer lay in the bustling trade routes that supplied the capital with goods from across the galaxy. Disguising their ship among the countless freighters and merchant vessels, Lyra and her team made their covert approach. Upon arrival, the team split into groups with distinct missions. Lyra and Kai focused on rallying support from the discontented populace, while Miko and Tessa worked on sabotaging the city's critical infrastructure to cripple the Imperial Command's communications and logistics. Lyra and Kai's efforts led them into the underbelly of the capital, where the stark inequality fostered by the Empire was most evident. While the upper echelons of society lived in opulent skyscrapers bathed in sunlight, the lower classes dwelled in the perpetual twilight of the city's lower levels, laboring in harsh conditions and living in poverty. It was here, among the disenfranchised and the desperate, that Lyra found fertile ground for rebellion. Using encrypted messages in covert meetings in abandoned factories or under the cover of the noisy industrial sectors, Lyra and Kai began to organize a network of resistance cells. They provided these cells with tools and training, preparing them for a synchronized uprising. Each cell understood their part in the larger plan, and the air crackled with a tense anticipation. Meanwhile, Miko and Tessa faced their own challenges. The capital's infrastructure was a labyrinth of technology and security systems, each layer more complex and heavily monitored than the last. Miko's technical prowess was put to the test as he navigated this maze, planting viruses and disabling surveillance networks. Tessa, leveraging her experience from her days in the Imperial prisons, coordinated with local rebels to create diversions, drawing attention away from Miko's activities. Their sabotage culminated in a massive blackout that swept through the upper levels of the city, plunging the elite districts into darkness and confusion. This was the signal for which the city's underground had been waiting. As the lights went out, the rebellion struck. Barricades rose in the streets, and citizens armed with makeshift weapons flooded out of their homes, overwhelming the unprepared Imperial troops. The rebels moved quickly, seizing control stations and communication hubs, effectively cutting off the capital from the rest of the empire. The chaos reached the heart of the imperial government, the Grand Citadel, a towering fortress that housed the empire's ruling council. Here, Lyra and her team, joined by hundreds of rebels, confronted the imperial guards in a fierce battle. Every hallway and chamber became a battleground as the rebels fought their way to the council chambers. Amid the turmoil, the figure of Emperor Zaylor emerged, a man more myth than flesh in the eyes of his subjects. His presence was commanding, yet it was clear the Emperor was shaken by the audacity and scale of the assault. Lyra faced him, not as a rebel leader, but as the voice of countless lives crushed under his regime. Their confrontation was not just physical but ideological, as each parried with words and wills before the inevitable clash of arms. With the Emperor defeated and the Citadel captured, the message was clear: the heart of the Empire had been pierced by the very people it had sought to suppress. News of the uprising spread like wildfire, inspiring other systems to rise in a cascading series of rebellions that the Empire could no longer contain. As the dust settled on Cyril, a new dawn broke over the capital. The rebels, with Lyra at the forefront, began the arduous task of rebuilding from the ruins of the old empire. A new government was formed, one that promised to be by the people and for the people, a government that would heal the wounds inflicted by years of tyranny. Lyra looked out over the city, her heart heavy with the cost of their victory, but hopeful for the future they had fought so hard to secure. The battle for Cyril was over, but the journey to forge a lasting peace had just begun. Following the revolutionary victory at Cyril, the heart of the empire, Lyra and her coalition faced the daunting challenge of consolidating power while quelling the remnants of the empire that refused to surrender. The rebels had ignited a sweeping fire across the galaxy, but smoldering embers of the old regime threatened to ignite anew. The remaining imperial loyalists, led by the cunning General Ivarus, regrouped at the fortress world of Toraxis, a planet fortified over centuries to serve as the last bastion of imperial might. Ivarus, a master of both strategy and survival, was gathering forces, calling in debts from outer systems, and preparing to launch a counterstrike that could potentially reverse the gains the rebellion had made. Lyra knew that a decisive action was needed to prevent the resurgence of the Empire. Gathering her closest advisors aboard the captured flagship Dominion's Might, now rechristened as the Freedom's Herald, she planned an assault that would end the Imperial threat once and for all. This was to be a multi-pronged attack. While a fleet engaged the forces in space, a strike team would infiltrate Toraxis to take out General Ivarus. Kai, now the chief military strategist, organized the fleet into specialized squadrons, each tasked with neutralizing Toraxis's formidable orbital defenses. Simultaneously, Miko developed new cloaking technologies and hacking tools to disable the planetary shield generators, allowing Lyra and a select team, including Tessa and the newly freed scientist Dr. Alara Vale, to descend to the surface. As the battle commenced in the cold void above Toraxis, the skies alight with the blaze of starships and the staccato of ion cannons, Lyra's team made their harrowing descent through flak and debris. Landing amidst the chaos of war-torn landscapes, they rendezvoused with local resistance fighters who had been sabotaging the Imperial war effort from within. The journey to the heart of Toraxis was perilous. The planet was a fortress not just in terms of military might, but also in the loyalty of its citizens, many of whom still believed in the Empire's cause. Every step forward was contested, with ambushes and traps whittling down the numbers. Here, Lyra's leadership was tested as never before, as she had to balance the immediate demands of combat with the strategic necessities of the uprising. Infiltrating General Ivarus's command center required passing through the ancient catacombs beneath the capital, a labyrinthine network of tunnels that housed the echoes of past battles and fallen heroes. Utilizing Alera's knowledge of Imperial codes and Miko's gadgets, they bypassed aged security systems, encountering remnants of the Empire's darkest experiments and weapons. As they emerged from the catacombs into the heart of the command center, they were confronted not just by Ivarus and his elite guard, but by the stark reality of the Empire's desperation: child soldiers, indoctrinated to fight for a cause they barely understood. Lyra's heart wrenched at the sight, but her resolve hardened. This was the cycle of oppression and war they needed to end. The confrontation with General Ivarus was intense and personal. The general, understanding his defeat was imminent, revealed his perspective of the Empire as a necessary force for galactic stability, arguing that without it, chaos would consume all. Lyra countered passionately, declaring their vision of a galaxy where freedom and justice did not require tyranny and suppression. In the climactic battle, as the general fell, his last words were a warning of the chaos to come. But Lyra, standing amidst the ruins of the old regime, saw not chaos, but the potential for a new order, built on the ideals they had fought so hard to uphold. With the fall of Toraxis, the last significant stronghold of the Empire capitulated. Across the galaxy, systems began declaring their allegiance to the new government, now officially recognized as the Galactic Coalition. This coalition was committed to rebuilding the ruins left by centuries of Imperial rule and creating a system of governance that was inclusive and just. As they left the scarred battlefields of Toraxis, Lyra and her team looked back not just at a planet, but at a symbol of their hardest-won victory. Ahead lay the immense task of building peace, a task perhaps more daunting than war, but for the first time, it seemed wholly possible. Lyra knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she also knew they would face them together, as a united galaxy. In the aftermath of their hard-fought victory at Toraxis, Lyra and the newly formed Galactic Coalition faced the monumental task of rebuilding a galaxy shattered by centuries of Imperial rule. The old Empire had left behind a legacy of destruction and deep-seated division, but in its ashes, there was a profound opportunity to create something enduring and just for all. Lyra, now recognized not just as a military leader but as a principal architect of the new government, convened a series of meetings on the liberated flagship Freedom's Herald. Here, representatives from hundreds of star systems, each with their own histories, cultures, and grievances, gathered to draft a new galactic constitution. The discussions were heated and complex, with debates often stretching into the small hours of the morning. Every decision required careful negotiation and compromise, reflecting the diverse needs and aspirations of a galaxy yearning for peace and unity. The key issue was decentralization. The old empire had controlled everything from the capital, Cyril, imposing a harsh uniformity across diverse worlds. Lyra and her advisors proposed a new model, a confederation of autonomous systems united under a common charter that guaranteed basic freedoms and shared responsibilities. This new structure aimed to prevent the concentration of power that had corrupted the empire and to promote a balance of power that was equitable and sustainable. Parallel to the political reconstruction, the coalition faced the Herculean task of economic recovery. Entire industries that had been geared towards the imperial war machine needed repurposing or dismantling. Miko spearheaded projects to convert military factories into centers for civilian production, focusing on technologies that would aid in planetary restoration and improve quality of life. Dr. Alera Vale led a scientific renaissance, encouraging innovation freed from imperial censorship and control. She established the Galactic Academy of Sciences, an institution dedicated to pursuing knowledge for the public good, fostering research in energy, medicine, and environmental science. The Academy became a beacon of hope, attracting the brightest minds from across the galaxy eager to contribute to the new era. Cultural revival was another critical aspect of the reconstruction. Under the Empire, many cultural expressions had been suppressed or co-opted to serve imperial propaganda. Tessa took charge of the Coalition's cultural preservation initiative, working to revive traditional arts, languages, and customs that had been on the brink of extinction. Festivals, museums, and libraries were established, celebrating the rich tapestry of galactic heritage and promoting understanding and solidarity among previously estranged worlds. Despite these efforts, the road to peace was fraught with challenges. Remnants of the Empire, hidden in shadowy corners of the galaxy, continued to pose a threat, waging a guerrilla war against the new government. Kai, now head of the Coalition Defense Force, was relentless in his efforts to secure peace, rooting out these cells with a combination of military strategy and intelligence operations. His approach was not merely punitive, he also implemented amnesty programs that encouraged former Imperial soldiers to lay down their arms and reintegrate into society. The true test of the new galactic system came when a drought struck the agricultural worlds in the Outer Rim. Instead of the old Imperial approach of seizing resources, the Galactic Coalition responded with a fleet of aid ships, carrying water, food, and medical supplies. This solidarity in crisis solidified the Coalition's legitimacy and demonstrated that the galaxy could respond collectively to hardships without resorting to authoritarian measures. Years passed, and the galaxy began to flourish under the new system. Planets once stripped of resources under the Empire saw their environments gradually restored. Societies that had been divided by Imperial decrees found new unity in shared governance and mutual respect. As Lyra watched from the observation deck of the Freedom's Herald, now orbiting her home planet of Taloria, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The galaxy was still imperfect, with inequalities and old wounds that would take generations to heal. But now there was hope, a precious commodity that had once been as rare as the most valuable star metals. In the twilight of her career, Lyra decided to retire from public life, confident that the structures they had built would endure beyond her leadership. She returned to Taloria, finding solace in its deserts and oases, which had recovered from the ecological damage wrought by the Empire. Here, amid the whispering sands, Lyra began to pen her memoirs, a testament to the enduring spirit of those who refuse to kneel, who dare to dream of a brighter dawn. Thus, as the sun set over the rejuvenated landscapes of Taloria, the galaxy spun on, its future unwritten but filled with infinite possibilities, each star a beacon of hope for continued peace and prosperity.